Hope you're having a lovely time, and we're back with some Betwixt the Books content. Surprise of surprise, it's our second tag in a month! Yay! Don't judge us. We have things coming, but we need to read the books for those. And one of those is coming out next month, so it makes more sense to just do that next month anyway. So 2 tags is what you get. Enjoy. Carrie recently decided that she's going to do more bookish content, which I'm all for. Let's go do it. I've been watching her probably since she started. I feel like since I was in high school, so definitely since she started YouTube, I've been watching her. And she did bookish content back then. She was doing a bunch of other stuff, and now she's doing bookish content again. Love it. Perfect. She created a tag based on the musical that she headlined called The Heathers, which if you have not seen The Heathers, it's beautiful. I highly recommend it. The soundtrack is great. Each of the songs have been turned into a prompt in this case, and we are going to answer which books we think belong to which songs based on that prompt. So, shall we get started? The first question is, based on the track Beautiful, which book in your collection is got the prettiest cover? For me, that would be The End of the Ocean by Maja Lunde, who, I think is this translated? Hold on, let me check, because if it is, then I would like to say yes. Translated from the Norwegian by Diane Oatley. So, this was originally a Norwegian book. It's very beautiful. I love the cover. I have not read it yet, so I cannot tell you what it is about. And honestly, I didn't read The Dust Jacket either, because I didn't care. It's a beautiful book. It has some climate crisis stuff. It takes place in 2 different timelines. Our current timeline, 2017, and then a timeline in the future post some climate crisis stuff. So yes, definitely something up my alley.
Hi guys. I have never watched Carrie, nor have I ever listened to or watched Heathers. I'm just here because I follow Michaela wherever she shall go. So from the prettiest book in my collection, the second I saw that prompt, I knew that I had to pick one of the Sarah J. Maas Throne of Glass books, because over on that wall over there, I actually have art of the covers, all of them, including the court books also, but I prefer the Throne of Glass covers, especially now that they've redone the court book covers. But anyway, for my example, I've chosen the cover of Kingdom of Ash, which is the last book in the series, and you might notice that there's no book in this. There's a reason. So one of the amazing things about the Throne of Glass covers is that you always have the main character on the front in fighting gear, and on the back you always have her in a dress that is important to the plot. And also, there was some people who didn't like that this cover was shiny when the rest of them are dark, but I'm okay with it. I feel like, especially after there were so many YA book trends where like it was the girl in the dress that was the front cover, making the statement to say that the front of each one is her with a sword or weapons or something is really important. The other thing about this one is that if you take the dust jacket off the hardcover, you get this, which is a wonderful art of all of the main characters. It's a little bit hard to see it with the glare, but it just makes me happy and it's pretty. So there you go.
The second prompt is based on the song Dead Girl Walking, and it is the steamiest book on your shelves. For me, that is Kersley Cole's Dark Needs at Night's Edge, which for some people who may have read this are confused. But let me tell you, one of the romantic leads in this is a ghost, and you might say, how can it be steamy? They don't have a body. That's why it's steamy. They have to get creative. So every time they get hot and bothered, they aren't allowed to touch each other. So it's all like words and deeds, and for me that's way more like steamy than like touching and like physical stuff. People also know that I am demisexual, so like that interests me anyway, because I prefer not to have physical contact happening. But sexiest one that I've read might interest you as well, because obviously that's different. That's not normal.
So I don't know if you guys know this, but I've been reading quite a few romance novels. So in terms of steamy books, I had quite a selection to choose from, but I had to choose Beautiful Bastard by Christina Loren, which is the first book in the Beautiful series, which I talked about in my Q1 wrap-up, but not really anywhere else, because I just got it on a whim. It was recommended to me, and I was like, okay, and these are the characters, page 1, and this is where they work, page 2. It's an office romance, page 2. Oh my god, they're already sleeping together. And I remember I literally walked into work and I was talking about it with a coworker, and I was like, I have found the book in which they have sex like the fastest that I have ever seen. So that book has to be the pick for me, because I literally was just laughing. I couldn't believe how fast they were just having anger sex at a stairwell at work.
I lied. That was actually the third prompt. Let's back up a second and do the second prompt, which was based on Fight For Me. It is a character that's loyal to the end. For this one, I'm kind of doing a cop-out. I am picking the standard for loyal friends, and that's Samwise Gamgee in The Lord of the Rings. I do not think that there is another character that goes to the exact same lengths that Sam does in this, or sacrifices as much, or is literally as loyal as he is. He is like the character archetype of the loyal best friend. You should know what this book is about, or books technically, all 3 books are. I don't really need to talk about it, and if you haven't read the books, you've probably seen the films. But yeah, Sam would go literally to the ends of the earth and sacrifice himself for his best friend. And there's nobody loyal. There's nobody more loyal than that. That's just the most loyal that you can be. He is there for his friend. He will do anything for him. There he is, loyal till the end.
So I'm gonna maybe throw out some unpopular opinion for my pick for most loyal. I am going to pick Triss from the Divergent series, and in particular, Triss's actions in Allegiant. I don't want to spoil the ending of this book if you still haven't read it. I know that there have been some movies that were never finished, and these have been out for a while, but there are people who have some really strong feelings about the ending of Allegiant, and people who were like, that's terrible! But I genuinely feel like this ending is Triss at her most loyal, and the thing that at that point, from what Veronica Roth had done to the plot, is literally the only thing that makes sense with her character. So I know there are a lot of people who don't like it, but I think that it at least makes sense, and it is different than a lot of other YA trilogies. So there you go, potential unpopular opinion there.
Back on track, prompt number 4. The Me Inside of Me is the song, and the prompt is a book that made you feel less alone. For me, I'm going to go with The Slow Regard of Silent Things by Patrick Rothfuss. I've spoken about this before on the channel. Ari is precious and definitely has a very different way of thinking. This book is not for everyone. I think for folks who are neurodivergent or have some sort of mental illness, you're gonna read this and see yourself. Maybe not in every single element of it, but you're going to see that the way that she lives her life is something that's very reminiscent of anyone who has struggled with either of these things. So yeah, it's one of those books where like you read it and see that there are people who struggle like you, and that your brain is broken and their brain is broken, and that you just keep going on. It's all the only thing you can do is to keep on living. So The Slow Regard of Silent Things by Patrick Rothfuss made me feel a little bit less alone.
So I have also talked about this before on the channel, but when I saw this prompt, the only possible pick that I could have for it was Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins. This is the, I believe, 10th anniversary collector's edition, and this is a book that I read it when it first came out, and I gave it 5 stars, and I loved it, and I saw a lot of parallels with this book and my relationship at the time. As many teenage relationships do, that relationship ended, and one of the things I was really upset that I thought would be ruined forevermore for me was this book, because I had aligned it so closely to that relationship. And so, you know, I was very depressed, I was very sad, doing a lot of crying, and I just kind of decided, you know what, I'm gonna try to take back some things that, you know, are mine and made me happy, and I should be able to enjoy outside of this relationship, and this book was one of them. And I came back to this book, and instead of having to fight to reclaim it in a certain way, I found new meaning in the story and new meaning in the relationships. And instead of feeling like I was rereading a relationship that I had lost, it filled my heart with joy of things that were going to come next in my life. And I don't think I've ever really had that with another book, and this will always just be super, super precious to my heart.
Prompt number 5 is based off of the song Youre Welcome, and it is a book where someone gets their comeuppance. For this one, I'm picking Neverworld Wake by Marisha Pessl. If you don't know, this is a book where a group of friends get into nearly a head-on collision. What they don't know is that after that event, they are all stuck in purgatory, and they have to repeat the same day over and over and over again until all of them vote to save one person. Everybody else is going to die in the car crash, and one of them can live, but they all need to vote for the same person. As you would expect, they all want to vote for themselves and are selfish and keep living that day over and over and over again. Some of them wake up at the start of the day again and immediately leave and won't talk with the others. Some of them go to college and try and learn as much as they can. Some, like all of them are doing very different things. But the reason that this has to do with people getting their comeuppance is that a year ago, one of their friends actually died. And you come to find out through the course of the story that they all had a hand in it. And part of why they vote the way they do at the end has to do with who has the least amount of blame for his death, or so they think, or who knows what, and that's how they get their comeuppance. They've caused the death of someone, and a year later they have to choose to save somebody. And who do they choose? How do they choose? That's this book.
So for this one, I am choosing yet another popular YA series. Wow, I know. So Victoria Aveyard's Red Queen was a fantasy YA book that tricked me. I really didn't think that it was possible for me to not see the bad guy coming. I saw it coming, but I thought other things about a certain character in that book, and anyone who's read it will know. So my pick for this is Warstorm, because this is the final book in the Red Queen series after, the battles have been battled and the magic, fights have been fought, and it was particularly satisfying to have this particular bad guy vanquished, because I was like, here I was prancing around like, YA doesn't surprise me anymore. It's all so predictable, blah, blah, blah. And then Victoria Aveyard got me. So, there you go. Very satisfying to see that comeuppance happen in the end.
Prompt number 6 is based off of the song Never Shut Up Again, and it is a book where someone has a mic drop moment. I'm going to pick The Gracier by Kim Legit. I cannot tell you exactly what the mic drop moment of this book is because it will spoil the ending of it. But believe me, there is a thing that is hidden from the reader, sort of. You get hints of it towards the end, but it is taken to the end in a moment where she is able to confront her society about some of their beliefs, and it works out for her, but not because of her mic drop moment, but because she has people in her life that care about her. But there's definitely a moment in here where something was sort of kept hidden and would have been seen as taboo for her society, especially because she was staying with a group of all women at the time. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. I would recommend this one anyway. If you want to read like a YA version of The Handmaid's Tale, it's very feminist. It's super cool. I loved it. Very good book. It's one of my favorite books of last year. Highly recommended.
So you guys may have seen my ARC review of a little book called Twice Shy by Sarah Hogel. And I have got to pick for my mic drop moment this particular book. It's actually something that I didn't really focus on in my review. So to kind of bring you to this moment, at the beginning of Twice Shy, the female character Maybelle has already, like, this is a past event, but she has been catfished by a woman at her work who claims to be her best friend. And she catfished Maybelle because Maybelle was flirting with a guy that this other woman liked. Maybelle was not flirting with him. She just happened to give him directions one day, and this other woman got super freaked out and took it out on Maybelle. And Maybelle ended up getting a promotion because her best friend's dad owns the place, and the promotion was basically to keep her quiet. And towards the end of the book, Maybelle and Wesley, who are the two characters, are trying to do things that scare them and take steps forward in their lives. They've both been stuck in a particular way, and they've been spending this entire book redoing a mansion that was left to them jointly by her great aunt. It's a thing. It's not important. Go watch that review. Read the book. It's great. But towards the end of the book, Maybelle goes back to her work thinking that she needs to have a mic drop moment with her ex-boss and say, you know, I've worked here for years and years and years. I think it's like something like, it might even be double-digit years. And thinking that this is her mic drop, and she has to say, I am worthwhile, and I'm going to open this hotel, and I'm going to make something of myself where you never believed in me. And instead, she ends up running into her former best friend, if they were ever really friends, and really just giving her like a talk. And it's not necessarily like mean, but it's all of those things that Maybelle should have said to her when she saw this toxic behavior that she was spewing, and, you know, trying to help her. Like, it's a mic drop, but it's also being like, in order to be a good person, you have to fix this. So it was just a really good thing that even Maybelle didn't realize that she really needed, and it was just beautiful and wonderful, and definitely, like, you know, she turns on her heels and it's just a total mic drop.
Prompt number 7 is based off of the song Our Love Is God, a moment in a book where two people have a perfect moment right before shit hits the fan. So, I know that I already recommended a Kresley Cole book, but I'm going to recommend Demon from the Dark by Kresley Cole. I don't read a lot of romance, so this question was way easier for Gretchen than it was for me. But in this one, the female lead is basically sent into another dimension to get a very powerful demon for a group of humans who are trying to do experiments and torture and learn about supernatural creatures. In order to do this, she has to seduce him. So you know from the start that she's going in there under the caveat of trying to get him to fall in love with her, and then basically tricking him and capturing him and bringing him back to be tortured. So you know that they, you know, on the night when all of the romantic stuff comes up to a head, she has to trick him and basically betray his trust, and then the rest of the book is her trying to make up for that fact.
I burst out laughing when I saw this plot because I just finished a series of books by Alona Andrews, and I was trying to rate them in Storygraph, and if you've used it, you know that when you put in a review on Storygraph, it asks you if it's character or plot driven, and all I could think of were all of the moments in these books where the characters are about to have a kissy moment, or they're having a great like heart-to-heart and monsters attack. I want to do a full review of this series. It is the Hidden Legacy series by Alona Andrews, except for there are supposed to be 6 books, and I've just found out that book 6 was pushed off to the first part of 2022, and I want to die. It's so good. I read 5 books in 5 days. It's insane, or less. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But the first part of the series follows a investigator named Nevada who lives in a world where your social status is attached to whether or not you have magic and how much magic that you have. And Nevada is a secret prime, that is the highest rank of magic user, because she can tell when people are lying to her and also force them to tell her the truth. They can get inside her head, and she ends up working with a surly ex-army dude named Rogan, who is one of the most powerful telekinetics of his generation. And they have, you know, like, it's not really enemies to lovers. It's mostly like Rogan really wants to sleep with her, and Nevada is like, could we please focus on saving the world, please? And Rogan's like, so let's sleep together. And Nevada's like, things are happening. And he's like, not right now. And then things happen. Every single time she is proved right. My favorite perfect moment that gets broken up by shit hitting the fan happens in the book White Hot, which is the second book, but you could literally pick any book in this series. And it was just so good because he's just like, let's get it on. And she's like, let's save the world. And then they get attacked. So perfect series for this prompt.
Prompt number 8 is based on the song My Dead Gay Son, which sounds crass, but it's an interesting song. It is humorous, but it's also heartfelt, and the prompt based on that is a book where parents accept their kids exactly as they are. Both of us were like Aristotle and Dante and Discover the Secrets of the Universe, but we're both gonna recommend different books instead. I'm gonna go with The Firemen by Joe Hill. This takes place in a world where there is a fungal disease going around where if you catch the disease with these spores, you basically get this fungus that is incredibly flammable and you could spontaneously combust at any moment. When the protagonist of this, who is a woman, finds out that she has caught those spores and has become infected with this disease, she also finds out that she is pregnant, and throughout this book it is her trying to survive long enough to give birth to the baby, even though most likely she is going to die giving birth, because childbirth is such a traumatic event that it would most likely cause her to spontaneously combust. So this is a mother giving the ultimate sacrifice so that her child can live, where she knows that she has this disease, this terminal disease. She is hoping that the amniotic barrier is going to protect the child from it and that the child will not have said disease, and that she can give birth to a healthy child who can go on and live in a future where hopefully humans have figured out a way to A, get rid of the disease, and B, protect other people from the disease in general. So, The Firemen by Joe Hill.
So from that to another fluffy romance novel, I reviewed Tessa Bailey's Hot and Hammered series on the channel. You can go back and watch that. But for this one, I had to mention Tools of Engagement, which is the third book in this trilogy. The Hot and Hammered series, each book follows a different member of a family who lives in this town where they are the premier house flippers, which basically means that they take rundown houses, they flip them, they redo them, and then they sell them for profit. And the third book follows the oldest sister, who you have met for 2 books prior. And she is, she's like the ice queen. She has everything figured out. She's super stylish. Everything's on track. Oh, and she's the family's decorator. So she doesn't help build or flip the houses. She goes in after the work is done and she stages them. And she essentially is the person who makes them so pretty that they get sold for these obnoxious amounts of money by setting the scene. And so you find out in the third book that, she is really just holding on by the skin of her teeth. She has some mental health, anxiety issues, and she also doesn't want to be a stager. She wants to be in on the floor with them, helping to tear down the walls and put up the cupboards. But they've always thought, oh, well, she's too pretty, she's too delicate, he's not her thing. And so this book is really about her coming out to her entire family in the sense that, she's like, actually, I've just been putting on this facade of a person, and I've been the person that I thought you wanted me to be, that I thought I had to be, but actually, like, I'm really insecure and anxious, and I want other things out of my life than I have told you in the past. And the entire family just coming together in a really beautiful way. This is one of those few romance series where, like, you could read them out of order, but, like, I highly don't recommend it, because after reading books 1 and 2, this third book, it just an extra level of really, really beautiful and awesome.
Prompt number 9 is based off of the song I Say No, and it is a book where someone stands up for themselves. I'm going to recommend The Vegetarian by Han Kang. The whole premise of this book is that this woman has sort of been controlled and belittled by everyone in her life. She makes the decision to become a vegetarian and stop eating meat. And you get to see from the perspective of everyone else in her life how that sort of goes poorly for her. But the point of the book is that she is taking a stance and saying no, and saying, I'm taking control of this one aspect of my life, the food that I put in my body, Even if I have very little control outside of that. It is very feminist. There's plenty of reviews of this because it won the Man Booker International Prize several years ago. It's definitely a good one. It's also pretty short, so if you haven't read it, highly recommend it. I have a full review of this one up on the channel, which you can go see. I'll link it up above.
So for this one, I have to bring up one of my favorite books of last year, and that is How to Fail at Flirting by Denise Williams. Now you think from the title and the cover that it's like another fluffy, awesome romance, and it is that, and it's wonderful, and I highly recommend it for that purpose. However, the main character in this one, you know, the premise is, you know, she's a professor and she's too caught up in her work, and her friends challenge her to do a list of things, and one of them is to go out and flirt with a stranger at a bar because she hasn't been in a relationship for a while, and they think that she needs to put herself back out there, and, you know, she meets someone, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay, I've heard this romance story before. But the thing about this one that it begins to unpack is that her previous relationship was physically and mentally abusive, and she has been struggling to come out of that. And in this book, her abuser, who had moved away from the college where they had both met, he ends up coming back into the picture, and she ends up having to stand up for herself and take back control from him. And I almost use this as my mic drop book, except for while this book does have a moment where everything coalesces, this book is really more about the journey of her beginning to trust herself, trust this new relationship, and really stand up for herself in several scenes against her past abuser. So I didn't expect that at all when I went into the book. It just seemed very light and fluffy, and it just ended up being something that it was just really well done, and I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed her journey, not just for the romance side, but also for her own personal growth towards the end. So really, really well done, and I enjoyed it.
The last prompt is based on this song, Kindergarten Boyfriend, and it is a character who is hopeful against all odds. I am going to recommend Avon from Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus. This is one of my favorite middle grade books that I have ever read. Avon was born without hands. She has only like parts of her arms, but she is a character who takes her disability as just a difference. Like, she is very positive about it. She feels like she can do anything that she puts her mind to. She may just need to do it in a different way than normal people do. She comes in contact with a young boy with Tourette syndrome who feels kind of the opposite, and she takes it upon herself to sort of give him more self-confidence, which has its own interpersonal things that are going on there. But she does also have some insecurities. She's moving to a new school at the beginning of this, and feels a little bit insecure about what's going on, but it is never about her capability of doing things. It's more about she doesn't like it, the way that people look at her as somebody different or treat her differently. So she is somebody who is very hopeful, who is very optimistic, who feels like she has the power to do anything that she wants to do and can do it, and she fully can. And I really supported that and loved that aspect of her character. So she's somebody who is hopeful despite all of the odds.
So I recently mentioned in my Q1 wrap-up that I had done a rereading of Hafsa Faisal's We Hunt the Flame. This is a first book in a YA fantasy duology, and it is ostensibly about two people, a girl who is a hunter who has magical powers, and a boy who is a prince but also a trained assassin. And putting aside their fabulous character art for a second, we are talking right now about the incredibly positive and funny Altair. He is, you believe in the beginning, just a side character who's really there for comic relief. And I'm not going to spoil it, but as the journey and the quest goes on, he's one of the prince's best friends. You know, he goes from being this character who's just like, I am the positivity train. And even just when you're just like, will you stop? This isn't funny. Like, will you just stop. But you just realize eventually that his positivism is rooted in like a very deep-seated belief in his team's power to change the world that they live in. And it it's really funny for me as the first time I read that book, going from, oh my God, he's just the comic relief, stop talking, can we get on with the plot, to getting to the end of the book and just realizing how important he is. And he is very important to the second book, which I am in the process of reading right now. And the opening of the second book is causing me pain on his behalf, but it's fine. It's fine, because he is totally hopeful and optimistic, and I believe in Altair. So that is the end of this video. We hope that you enjoyed. And yeah, like Michaela said, this is our second tag in a month, but you know what that also means? This is our second video this month. You know what that means? That means consistent Betwixt the Books content, so I don't care what they are, we're doing the thing. That's my white girl dancing for you. Please enjoy. This is why I do not go clubbing, ever, at all. Anyway, we are reading multiple books together, or planning to read books. We got some arcs that, like Michaela said, are coming out at a certain time, so those reviews can't come too soon. So we have plans, and you know what? We might actually be sticking to them. It's great. So thanks so much, guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye!